Evening, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the council, the Village of Lions Bay, on Tuesday, May the 4th. Time now is 7:01 p.m. And I am in chambers on with CFO Rook, CAO DeJong, and Office Coordinator Roger, and we'll begin the meeting now. Council has just come out from the closed portion, which we will go back to at the end of the meeting. At the public meeting, we do not have anything to report at this time. I'll put forward a motion to adopt the agenda. May I have a second? Thank you. Any changes, additions, deletions? Start with you, CAO. Anything?
No, I don't think so.
No changes from staff to the council members. Anything? Presume no. Thank you. I'll put forward a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted. All those in favor, please. I'll presume a second. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Thank you very much. Carried. Public participation, 2 minutes a person on a subject that is within the agenda. I don't see a gallery. Carla, is there somebody that wants to unmute? And I can't see the gallery unmute. Somebody from the gallery would like to come forward. This is the time now. Please unmute and speak. Otherwise, we'll go to our guest speaker. Okay. Going. We'll close off the public participation section of the meeting and we'll move to the public delegation, which is our auditor, Paul Fripp from BDO Canada. And he'll be presenting the final audit, 2020 audit to Mayor and Council. And the staff recommendation is, the time limit is waived. However, that being said, Mr. Fripp, I have my eye on the clock and I'd like to conclude this section within a half an hour. Or there's cash involved, I'm sorry to say. I'm saying that jocularly, that's not the most important thing. So to this, I would welcome you and I look forward to your comments. And if it would be possible after your piece, I would ask you to focus on the financial one. I think we're quite familiar with your firm. I would really like to get to the numbers. Mr. Fripp, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor McLaughlin, for having me this evening and council as well. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here to present our audit findings report as well as the financial statements. So you mentioned half an hour. I'll make sure that I meet that. As a result, I'm going to have to go fairly high level over things. Let me just see if I can. Perfect. I'm going to share my screen so that everybody can follow along. You do have this in your package. This is directly from the regular council meeting package, starting at page 12. Status of the audit. We are substantially completed the audit of the financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2020, pending some routine completion items, which require the receipt of a signed management letter of representation, review of events all the way up until the audit report date, which we anticipate will be today's date, as well as approval of the financial statements by Mayor and Council. Just gonna quickly, we've provided you with within this report details of our audit findings and areas of significance within our audit report, within our the conduct of our audit, as well as our findings. There's nothing of significance to raise to council's attention within any of these areas. I will pause at the end in case there are potentially questions around any of those. With regards to internal controls, we did not identify any significant deficiencies in internal controls during the course of our audit. Adjusted and unadjusted differences arising out of our audit procedures are presented here. You'll note that the majority of them are fairly minor in nature. This table here shows the adjustments that were not recorded by management, mainly for cost benefit purposes and generally their overall magnitude. This table here, however, does show the adjustments that were recorded by management. And that was to bring the MFA debt reserve fund onto the statement of financial position at the end of the year, as well as a reclassification within utility revenue. The next series of pages outline required communications as well as some information on our audit process. I will let council and members of the public review that at their leisure. On page 25 of the council package provides a draft of our independent auditors report. This is the form that we anticipate we will be issuing once we finalize the audit report. It is an unmodified or clean audit opinion, which reads as follows. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the village as at December 31, 2020, and its results of operations, changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. This would be similar, if not the same wording that you've seen in the past years. Page 27 provides a copy of the letter of representation that management will be signing and providing back to us. It effectively states that we were provided with open and unrestricted access to personnel, accounting systems, and documentation to accumulate our audit evidence to provide our audit opinion. And last but not least, there is a management letter addressed to the management of the village, which outlines certain recommendations that we identified during the course of our audit, which we bring to management's attention for the purposes of best practices. We've identified two fairly minor points here, although I would like to maybe highlight this one on cybersecurity in light of the recent cybersecurity attack on the resort municipality of Whistler, as well as another one earlier in the year against the District of Squamish. You know, cybersecurity and local governments seem to be going more hand in hand, and that's because local governments are viewed as having you know, a significant amount of data as well as resources that different organizations can go after through these attacks. So we would encourage that review of the different cybersecurity measures that the village has in place, including things like cybersecurity insurance, as well as different IT controls. All right. So I'm just going to pause. That was extremely high level, just given our time constraints. Are there any questions or comments with regards to our audit findings report? No. All right, hearing none, I'll get into the I guess interesting stuff. Here's a copy of the draft financial statements. These are still in draft until they are approved by council and signed and officially dated. Starting with the statement of financial position. I'll cover cash when we get to the statement of cash flow. But just highlighting some major differences. Grant receivable, you'll notice that there was a significant decrease. This is by and large a product of the timing of certain capital works and the associated capital funding. And so at the end of the year 2019, there was some significant water works that spanned across year end, creating some grant receivable associated with that at year end. Those capital works were not in place. That was wrapped up in the year. So there was a much smaller amount of activity at the end of 2020, so lower number. You'll see here the debt reserve fund, that was the the adjustment that management made to bring the MFA debt reserve fund onto the statement of financial position. It was previously unrecorded, a small amount, but we did sort of discuss that this is ultimately an asset to the village that will be collected while quite far off into the future, but still will be collected. Accounts payable, that's up because primarily because of the province of British Columbia extended payments around school tax until early in 2021, whereas normally they're paid sort of in the summer and fall following collection of property taxes. So that's the lion's share of the increase here. You'll notice as well, long-term debt increased. There was $600,000 in debt proceeds that were taken out in the year associated with funding capital projects. By and large, that was the largest capital project in the year was around wastewater treatment plant replacement. Total additions to tangible capital assets was 1.75 million. That's offset by amortization of about 600,000. And so you have a net increase in tangible capital assets of about 1.1 million. Overall, that had an increase in your accumulated surplus of about $1 million. Here we are, statement of operations. You'll see that a lot of lines here are consistent with the financial plan. When we come down here to government transfers, this line is exceeds budget. That's largely a product of the province of British Columbia providing the BC Safe Restart, COVID-19 Safe Restart grant in 2020. That wouldn't have been planned for at the beginning of 2020. As well, other revenues is close to plan, but it's down significantly. And that's just because there were certain one-time items that flowed through in 2019, which weren't recurring in 2020. And so much closer to planned other revenues. Gain on sale of asset held for sale. It was planned gain, but the asset was not sold until after year end. So that's why you don't see an amount recognized in the period. Overall, revenues very close to plan, just under 4.6 million, coming in at 4.5 million. From an expense side of things, you'll see it's under planned by about 500,000. I mean, a lot of this is if we go to Schedule 1, you'll notice that the acquisition of goods and services is down across all departments, and that's there were certain activities that were planned in the financial plan which just didn't come to fruition. So that's the lion's share of those decreases. It's spread across these departments. The other expenditure areas, payroll and benefits, very much in line with plan. And so overall expenses, 3.5 million, bringing the annual surplus down to just under $1 million. So that's bringing your accumulated surplus from about 25 million up to about 26 million. Statement of changes, net financial assets. So net financial assets is a key metric for many local governments. It's a proxy of, if of the sort of liquid assets or semi-liquid assets that could be used to sort of fund ongoing operations. If we go back to the statement of financial position, you'll see that line there. It's taking your financial assets less your liabilities. So if you extinguished all your debts, what would you be left over with? And so that number is about 2.5 million, down from just under 2.7 million last year. And statement of net financial assets provides a breakdown of those changes. So it shows that your annual surplus of about $1 million was, then used to acquire about 1.8 million in tangible capital assets. That's offset by amortization and loss on disposal of tangible capital assets. These numbers are built into your annual surplus, but they're non-cash, so they effectively add back. So the sort of net change here is a decrease after all these items, and the net change in your net financial asset of 134,000. So bringing you from about 2.7 million down to 2.55 million. Similarly, statement of cash flows shows how your annual surplus translates into cash flows provided from operations, and then how it's used in different aspects of the village's operation. So your million, and then you add back the non-cash amortization and loss on disposal of tangible capital assets, as well as changes in your working capital balances. So you'll see increase in cash flow from operations went up 3 million, but 716,000 of that was a buildup in AP, which would have been funded out shortly after year end. That 3 million was then used to acquire 1.75 million in tangible capital assets. And then, but of that, there was repayments of long-term debt, but that was offset partially by a new issuance of about 600,000 in long-term debt. So that the net change of all these things, your operating, your capital, and your financing transactions results in an increase in cash during the year of 1.7 million, bringing your cash from 3.8 million up to 5.5 million. I'm not going to go through the notes in detail. Largely unchanged from past years. I will highlight a couple things. So note 1 does describe that the land held for sale was sold subsequent to year end in March 2021. Did accumulate a gain of about 400,000. On note 5, you'll see the long-term debt issuance here secured at 1.99%. So that's a pretty fantastic rate. If you look at the other rates there, they're all higher. And then coming down to the very last note, significant event. So this describes the ongoing uncertainty surrounding COVID-19, and that it continues to be an uncertain situation. And while many local governments, including the village, haven't they've been impacted, but financially so not in a significant way. And local governments continue to receive support from different levels of government, provincial primarily, but there's other supports in place as well. But that could change as this situation with the pandemic continues, or if the situation with the pandemic becomes more severe. So that's the intention of this note, is to highlight the overall uncertainty arising from this situation. Schedules 1 and 2 provide 2020 and 2019 comparative statement of operations by segment. These operations provide you the operating expenses by object as well as by function. So, and this is where you can see financial plan, goods and services versus actual, whereas you can see that the wage and benefits coming in very close to plan, same with the amortization very close to plan. Schedule 3 and 4 provides the tangible capital asset continuity as well as its comparative as well. And then last and not attached to the sort of separated from the financial statements as a whole is requirement by the province of British Columbia associated with the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant to provide an annual report on the funding and how it's being utilized. This report is unaudited. It is just a requirement that it be attached at the back of the financial statements. We did consider this funding in the context of our audit of the financial statements as a whole, but we don't specifically place an audit opinion over this schedule itself. It's not a requirement of the province to do so. All right, so that takes us to the end of the financial statements. Now I went at a pretty fair clip, so but left us a few minutes for questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fripp. On behalf of council, staff, and the community, I greatly appreciate the extensive and intimate knowledge that you demonstrated with respect to our financial statements and affairs. I found your balance sheet and operational analysis clear and to the point. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to split forces with your approval, Mr. Fripp, in the analysis and ask the CFO to make comments on the year end as well. She's worked very hard to get us to this point through interim reporting and now the graduation date being the pending approval of the financials. So CFO, if you could please add anything that Paul has not addressed, which in its simplicity was more revenue, less expensive, and the bottom line being boosted by the COVID-19 Restart Fund.
Yes, that pretty much sums it up. I had made some notes, and Paul really addressed all of the things I was going to point out: the increase in cash, the increase in accounts payable, and the sort of unexpected revenue of the $603,000 COVID grant that was budgeted. Council had any other more specific questions?
Council, if you can unmute and ask a question for either Mr. Fripp or CFO Rook, please do so now.
I'll unmute and ask a few. So no particular order. I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. I apologize. And maybe some of these questions are better answered by CFO Pam.
Yeah, no, I'm sending to answer these questions. On note 4, equipment financing, we have this favorite topic of mine of radios. These are the ECOM radios, correct? Yeah, that's correct. It's basically, we're paying for them over 7.5 years, and we're required to record them as a capital lease. So we make quarterly payments.
We make quarterly pays that add up to $45,000 per year. So why does it say 18 here?
Sorry, what does it say, 18 years?
On page 46 of 260, it refers to payments in 2021, 2022, and so on of 18,000 a year. Yet in previous meetings, when you explained what these were, we were speaking about 11,200 per quarter.
Yes, because that payment isn't just the repayment of the equipment. There's also just general fees for being part of ECOM, and have to take a detailed look at the invoice, and then just our share of just the capital costs. So that there's just a portion of the invoice is the equipment financing.
Okay.
And these are also just the principal payments. Like this is showing how the asset is being drawn down. So there's also interest as well, which you can see less imputed interest. Yeah, sorry, to give down to the lease payments. I can bring a more detailed, because it sort of ties into the AP listing as well to a future meeting, the ECOM bill, so you can see the breakdown.
Okay. All right. Thanks. On note 5, the long-term debt, the numbers in 2024 and 2025 drops down significantly. So I guess this is a question for the auditor. So this isn't a forecast. This is a prediction of where our current debt would go, correct?
Yes, this represents the balance of debt outstanding at December 31, 2020. with its comparative 2019. So this is the amount of debt that has been drawn on. So there will and are you know, debt amounts that can still be drawn on. So I happen to know that 600,000 isn't fully drawn on, for instance. There's a larger ceiling for that one. But this represents the amount that has been taken out by the village at the end of the year.
Okay. Yeah, so it would be a very different number to what we forecasting to do in our 5-year plans, for example. This is just the current amount.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this is
correct.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, this is the debt that we've actually incurred. The 5-year plan shows debt that we're drawing down the balance of our loan authorization bylaw. So it shows us borrowing to the maximum. And the reason the numbers drop down is you can see by the maturity date, we have debt maturing in 2025. And that's why the amounts are dropping down. Both
Okay.
the MFA financing for the equipment and the first loan of 114 will all be paid by 2025.
Okay, then note 1, assets held for sale. So here we previously had a tangible asset of 273,000. And then we sold it for gain of 400,000. So where do we report the additional 126,000?
So the gain is the proceeds less the cost that's recorded on the books. So you know, the proceeds were you know, the 273 and the gain together. The amount that was recorded on the books is a historic value, so it's quite it's not representative of what that fair value would be, and so the gain itself is that difference, the proceeds less the cost on the records of the village. That was sold in 2021, so you won't see that flow through the statement of operations until next year.
Okay. Won't see it till next year. Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, so now I'm understanding why in the financial plan column we showed it as 500 and this year is nothing, because actually nothing was realized this year, it's realized next year.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Budgeted 2021.
Too many numbers on the same line. All right, got it now. And then this I think is a bigger question, and staff of council have been asking themselves it, and I'm guessing it's not going to be answered here unless there's a really 30 words or less explanation for it. But on page 38, under liabilities, we talk about sick time, overtime, wellness, and vacation pay. Is there any way of describing what that number represents and how it's calculated fairly quickly?
I can make a go at that. As you know, the sick time 2 years ago, we started getting an actuarial review. We used to book all of our sick time and the liability was getting quite large, but we don't pay out our vacation. So we had an actuarial review of it. So they've given an estimate that the accrual should be 11,100 for this year, which we booked. And pretty much the balance of it is vacation payable. So every year, people have vacation entitlements and they're expensed in that year. And the offset is the liability account. And when that vacation is taken, the liability is drawn down. So the vacation is expensed each year. But the reason that isn't adjusted is because there is a legal obligation for people once they've earned the vacation, either to have it paid out or to take it. And sorry, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Paul.
No, that's quite comprehensive. Does that answer your question, Councillor Abbott?
Kind of, and yes and no. We carry the cost of the vacation when it was earned, not the cost of when it would, what the actual cost would be if it was taken out in cash. Is that correct?
it's trued up every year based on what the balance to that that specific employee would be at that point in time. So at the end of the year, December 31, 2020, that should represent what would need to be paid out, presumably if somebody drew it out in cash, with the exception of the sick accrual, which is an actuarial valuation.
That's correct. At the end of the year, we calculate someone's bank. We say this is how many hours they have in the bank, and that current year's wage is applied on that. Because when vacation is paid out, or basically when it's taken, if we take carry forward vacation in 2021, you just receive your regular pay like anyone does when they go on vacation, and it's paid out at the current rates. And that same rate is used when it's paid out. There's also an administrative reason for that. I know of very few payroll systems that could track the hours in a vacation bank based on the value at which they went into the bank. So that's why at the end of the year, we adjust it. And that's always been my practice whenever I've done year-end accruals in my career. And maybe you could speak to that, Paul, but it's that true up at the end of the year. It's the value of it at that time. If it were to be paid out at December 31st at the current rates employees are earning.
Yeah, that's standard practice.
Councillor Abbott, any
Okay.
further questions?
I think we could, the actuarial value for the sick pay is, maybe that's a question for a different time. It's a fraction of what, you know, and I understand people can't take it out in cash.
As you're
But
saying,
it's
for
a fraction of what could be taken out if people took all their sick pay. But I guess maybe
As you
we can
say,
get an understanding of that actuarial calculation in another time, Pam.
I mean, it is just based on historical. We don't take very much vacation. Every year we have to adjust it down. So that's what we started with at January 1st. And then this year, everyone will continue to accrue their vacation, and that number will go up because historically no one has ever taken all their sick time in 1 year, and it just keeps building and building. Before we did our adjustment, we had over $120,000 worth of sick time. And that's why we had that big credit in 2019, was because it was adjusted down. And we got the actuarial evaluation because the number was getting so large, it was close to becoming, I don't want to overspeak, but Paul, almost a material error because it was getting so high.
Yes,
And there
that's
was no
correct.
really
Like
paid out.
sick time, because it doesn't, it can't be taken out in cash. You should recognize it based on expected incident rate as opposed to what people are banking necessarily. So it's trying to, you know, if everybody takes, you know, is provided 10 days a year, but on average only 2 days are taken, you should really only accrue for those 2 days because that's your expected expense over that a period of time. So that's what an actuary does, is that they go and they look at the incident rates, they look at how that's building, they look at wage rates and how those are growing, they look at retirement rates and how these different benefits vest over time, and they use that methodology to come up with their figure. It's a fair valuation based on a number of different inputs.
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Councillors Bain, Barbier, and Cunliffe, any questions for either the CFO or a distinguished guest?
I'm good. Thank you both for your hard work.
No, I'm good. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Very much, councillors. Then thank you very much, Mr. Fripp and CFO, for your usual diligent work, and thank you for again the clarity that you provided on behalf of BDO for us, Mr. Fripp. We'd like to say thank you very much for your time. And the recommendation is that the report, Village of Lions Bay 2020 final audit report, be received for information purposes. I'll put that forward as motion. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. I'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Good. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Fripp, and thank you again.
Can
All
I,
right, thanks.
sorry, can I ask one question, Paul, if you don't mind? Could you please tell me what BDO stands for?
Binder Diker Otte. It's
Thank
it comes out of like it's a German Dutch merger that happened quite some time ago in Europe. But BDO Canada is formerly BDO Dunwoody, which was formerly Dunwoody and Company. So,
All
there you
right.
go.
Thank you very much for that.
All right,
Have a
my
great
pleasure.
evening.
Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much,
you.
everyone. Just want to extend my thanks to Pam and her team. We always receive tremendous support. Conducting an audit is a lot of hard work, and we always appreciate the effort that Pam puts into it, working with us. And just wanted to let council know as well that we are available throughout the year if any questions do come up. All right.
Thank you very much for that opening, Mr. Fripp. Don't run away. There was a time when we held these parts of these meetings in camera, where council had an opportunity to quiz you on some matters independent of staff. I'm going to presume that when I ask Pam tomorrow for your email ID and I send something off to you, you'll send something back in the next couple of days.
Sure. My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Moving on to item number 7, which is review and approval of minutes of prior meetings. That's the next first one up is April 23rd. And I'll put forward the motion that the regular council meeting minutes of April 13th, April 13th, not 23rd, 2021 be approved as circulated. I'll put forward that. Can I have a hand for a second? Thank you very much. Any discussion? I have no questions on this particular meeting. No changes, amendments, deletions. Councillors, please speak up.
Well, it looks good to me.
Thank you very much. There being none, I'll call a motion. All those in favor of the minutes as written, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Thank you very much. Which brings us to the special meeting of April 27th. And the special meeting minutes of April 27th be approved as circulated. I'll put forward that motion. May I have a second hand for a second, please? Thank you. Any discussion? I have no changes to these minutes. Anybody, please? Additions, deletions? There being none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor please, of the minutes as circulated, please confirm by saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. My overview of the 2 minutes was pretty much everything there that is being carried forward or dealing with tonight. I have no business arising. Councillors, you have something that you want to address?
I do. There may be actually, you may be correct. Maybe most of this can be dealt with later, but I'll just mention it now and see if that seems appropriate to everyone. Well, no, this one isn't being dealt with later. On page 65, we talk about Metro 2050, and it's linked to the urban containment boundary discussion. I personally not sure those two are the same thing anymore, but I'll grant that others on council see them as part of the same discussion. Do we have an update when we're going to get to discuss this urban containment boundary issue? Because it's
Councillor
a big
Abbott,
interest of many residents.
Councillor Abbott, on page 65, where are you looking? Or just my contact to Metro?
Hang on, give me a second. I'll have to go to page 65.
I'm looking at Dead Center. I'll contact Metro to request information presentation.
Is correct. And in
Correct.
previous meetings when we spoke about, this is Mamelok and note to your contact Metro. Previous meetings when we spoke about the discussion about the urban containment boundary, it got linked into this Metro 2050 policy review. And I'm not sure they are the same thing. My question is, when are we going to have this discussion that many residents ask us to review about whether we should be inside or outside the urban containment boundary? Is it still part of this discussion in people's minds? Or if not, I'd like to get it back on the agenda.
It will be on the agenda. Thank you very much for bringing that up. When we get to unfinished business, I'll address that in the first comment I make.
Okay, I thought I was doing unfinished business.
Nope, we'll get it in a second. Anything else?
There's we've got an unfinished business item regarding the block watch, but I said I could either do it now and refer to the minutes the way they were minuted, or we could do it as the council report. But when we get there, I'd like to go back to the minutes and discuss it around the way it was minuted at the time. Is that okay, or would we rather we did it now?
Right, your call.
All right. I'm happy to do it later in the meeting, but I'd like to come back to the actual items listed in the minutes and just go through them bullet by bullet.
At a later time.
It's down as a council report. I'll leave it there. I'm just saying I'm going to come back to the minutes at that point.
As council reports. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so that'll conclude business rising. Thank you. Unfinished business, and I'll take the lead on that. Item number 199, which is the lead. I apologize to staff and my colleagues. I took the eye off the ball on this one. And I had contacted the appropriate representatives in Metro on March the 2nd. And then this came along on the 13th as a reminder. I've been in dialogue with them to come and speak with us. I apologize, I got lost in the shuffle. I've reminded them again and copied CAO DeJong, and I expect we're going to have our invitation to them out this week. And they will be with us either the next meeting or the one after, which is ever convenient for the CAO and our guests. In my initial piece to them, I was focused on the urban containment boundary. And I expect that whatever the presentation is, that will be a big focus, and they'll have the heads up on that well before they come. I trust that'll take care of your request, Councillor Abbott.
Sure.
Thank you. Moving on, Councillor Bain. Changes with the block watch. I think you still are. Anything to advise?
If I could say to that, we're sort of in the research phase right now. I'm getting a bit of help from a few other folks looking into things as well. And it's starting to fall into place. We've got some good ideas that we like to propose, but it's a bit premature at the moment.
Good. Thank you very much. Then we'll leave this on. Thank you very much for your good work on this. And the next two items up are 2001, 2002. And I believe those.
Sorry, can we just go back to that Councillor Blaine's comments on the block watch? We are going to discuss that later in council reports.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And on items 201, 202, those have been responded to. No further comment. Thank you. Next piece is staff reports, and that will be on the PRV project update and kiosk wrap feedback response, which is on page 81 of your projects package. And the recommendation is that PRV project update and kiosk wrap feedback responses be received. Actually, that's not the whole package. Pardon me. So responses be received. Okay. I think there's other information that goes along with this too. Okay, so I'll put that forward. Can I have a seconder, please? A hand. Thank you very much. A hand's given. This is being led by Mr. Jaffer. Mr. Jaffer, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we went out for feedback from the public about the kiosk wraps on April 16th. A village update piece was put out, and on the 23rd, we received 10 responses. 8 were residents in Upper Bayview. 2 were from other areas of the village. 9 out of the 10 overall responses preferred camouflage. So essentially what we'll do is once BC Hydro has completed their connections, we'll go to RFP and ask that the companies put together a camouflage wrap for each of the 3 sites.
Thank you very much. So at this point, pretty much you're being held for ransom by BCH. And you're going to put the wraps out for bid.
That's correct.
Execution anticipated about when?
It's so hard to say with BC Hydro's backlog.
Let's go with the easy answer then. The wraps?
Unknown.
Unknown.
Can't do it until that goes done.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any questions?
I've got a question. Is this the end of, we decided this is the end of public engagement on this matter, and we're going to choose what type of a color of wrap and whether it's camouflaged or not, and we're done with it and we're moving on. As everyone, well, as council will know, I feel we should have done more positive engagement with immediate neighbours and looked at other options. Doesn't seem to be much traction from others to go any further, but is that our opinion now? We've finished with this item and we're going to complete these wraps, which I believe are a significant cost. And that is the end of this, because I believe this lack of true engagement is how we got ourselves into this condition in the first place, to be honest.
Thank you very much for your commentary, Councillor Abbott. I believe the request is for the wrap and that the item be received. And I think relative to your point, this is pretty much along with the hydro concludes the project. To my colleagues, just to make clear that that is the case, I'll just do a quick roll call. I think Councillor Abbott, you've stated your point. Councillor Bain, do you consider the matter closed with the wrap and hydro link?
Well, I don't have any other option that I'm aware of, so I'll have to pursue this to see where it goes. But nobody seems to be coming out of the woodwork making other suggestions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bain. Councillor Farmer, do you consider the matter closed with the wrap and hydro link?
Yeah, the hydro link is, I mean, technically I'm a bit out of my depth. Maybe I'm not quite sure what the decision is there, but the wrap, if that's in line with the resident feedback, I think that hopefully that'll look nice and blend into the background and yeah, good job, Nye.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kilnoff, do you consider the matter closed? Ultimately, when hydro ordains to come out and do the final hookups and the wrap that's been broadcast in the village and decisions that have been made, do you consider the matter closed?
Consider it closed. I concur.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, I consider the matter closed. I believe that will close the matter. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next piece, which is partnerships with Recycle BC. And this is a pretty cool project, actually. And the motion is that staff be directed to formally pursue a partnership with Recycle BC and that the Public Works Manager and the CEO be directed to work with Recycle BC to develop contracts between the village and Recycle BC for the receipt of single and multi-family recycling, and that the final contracts be brought forward to council in due course for the review and approval. I will happily put forward that motion. May I have a hand for a second, please? Thank you very much. Public Works Manager Jaffer, this is a pretty cool project. Why don't you tell us all about it?
So essentially, we have an opportunity to join Recycle BC as a collector organization. Approximately 95% of the municipalities in the Lower Mainland are members. Most recently, Squamish just hired on or just signed on as a collector organization in 2017. Essentially, there's no change in the collection process. We would still hire a contractor to collect our recycling. It would be transferred to Recycle BC station, where they would take possession of that recycling and they would compensate us for that recycling. The formal term is EPR, which stands for Extended Producer. Gosh, sorry, I'm having a blank here. Essentially, producers are responsible for packaging from start to finish. And they will take that material back and recycle it, and we will get a credit for that material. The credit is based on a per capita formula, and the exact dollar amounts will be determined once we get into the nitty-gritty of formulating the contracts.
Well, and good. Thank you very much. Councillors, any questions, comments?
So how does that impact our utility rates? Does that mean does that go down, or is that just bang money in the kitty, or how does that come back to us?
That'll be a decision for council, how to use those funds. They can be used to offset the overall solid waste utility. For example, Squamish uses a portion of their funds to help reduce the costs, but they also use a portion of the funds for education and commitment or striving to zero waste. So it's up to council how they choose to use that fund.
So one more question: will they collect styrofoam as well, or is it still the same
No.
materials? No new materials make up.
Exactly. It's still the same process. Styrofoam is taken to a depot where it can be recycled. So there's no material change to our current recycling.
So styrofoam we're still responsible for as residents individually. There's no collective pickup of styrofoam, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I think a similar question, because styrofoam is not mentioned on this attachment. So I thought it was a positive we'd be able to put styrofoam in our waste, in our recycling.
No, but we can look into that further with Recycle BC. I don't believe so. I think there's no change. All that changes with this, if we get on, is that we'll be compensated for the recyclables that we do produce right now.
Okay, there's also, I think,
really awesome if we could ask about styrofoam. Sorry, Neville. It's such a big, it piles up quickly, and it maybe that's just my place, but we end up with a lot of styrofoam.
so yeah, no, I think we need to look into this. I know I went to transfer station a week or so back, hadn't been for a long time due to COVID, had bags of my soft and crinkly plastics all mixed up, got there and they asked me to separate truly soft ones from the crinkly ones, and the ones that had stand-up pouches and had any sort of form of Ziploc tie on them. And it seemed to me the reason that we're doing that is because the truly soft plastics are now accepted as a recyclable, and that's what it says on this attachment. It differentiates. So I saw this as, and it's a little confusing because it says anything that's taken at a recycle depot, but recycle depots also, and also a transfer station one, take other stuff. It's not acceptable. So I'm a little confused, but I did read this and thinking we were making progress, and truly soft plastics as well as styrofoam was now going to be recycled. So I think we should go find out. The devil's in the details here, I think, and obviously there's an education program that needs to follow that.
So part of this is once we begin negotiations with Recycle BC, we'll have a formal list. The list that you see is a 2017 list that was provided by the District of Squamish. So the exact details will be finalized once Peter and I work with Recycle BC to formulate a contract specific to Lions Bay.
Okay.
Good. Other councillors, Councillor Cunliffe, this.
Yes, I would like to say this is fantastic news. I actually spoke with our provider about this exact thing. He said he's been hoping that we could get on this program for quite a while. I think that the Climate Action Task Force has a lot of really good ideas, and this is the right direction to be going in. So Nye, I would really appreciate a sit down with you and Peter to discuss the contract going forward and really what the goals for the village would be in regards to this. But the fact that we're getting compensated for our recycling is a huge win. So appreciate it very much. And I just see that this is going to be great going forward. And there's a ton of potential here. So appreciate your hard work on this.
Councillors, any comment before I close on this one? No, I think to Public Works Manager Jaffer and to the balance of our executive team, this is a huge win. Here the council appreciates the work very much on this. I think we've got some minor guidance on nice to haves, like to see. So we'll leave you with your negotiations on that. Councillor Cunliffe's asked to be to meet with you as you go along the path. So if you could keep her in the loop and gather with her, that'd be much appreciated. I believe that there's nothing else. I will call a motion. And I do. All those in favor of the motion as put forward, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Yeah.
Very good. Most enthusiasm we've seen around this agenda in a while. Thank you. Having followed that, who cannot enjoy a lengthy accounts payable list as much as I do? And I got my magnifying glass out to look at everything. I think my special assistant did an oversized print for me. The motion is that the listing be received from information, which I will put forward as a motion. Can I have a hand for a second? Take that as yes. Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Let's just, I'll quickly go around. Councillor Abbott, you're going to go last. Councillor Cunliffe, any questions for the CFO on any of the items listed?
I'm good. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barmier, any questions on any of the items listed?
Yeah, it's the same list we've seen a number of times, Pam.
Yes, this is for the first quarter.
It's the first
It's
quarter.
basically all the checks we've written for the first quarter of 2021.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
No, it's the first time you've seen this list.
This one's
That's what
brand
you
new.
meant.
This one's brand new.
Okay.
It's the first, so it's the first quarter, 3 months, we get it a month after.
The last was checks from 2020 that Neville had requested. Got
Yeah,
it.
that's the December closeout. Thank you. Councillor Bain, any questions on anything?
No questions, just a comment that I appreciate the listing. It shows us the scope and gravity of what's really going on financially, and helps to have a better understanding for us to see how the village is being run. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bain. Councillor Abbott, you want to close? Questions, please.
Sure. First of all, I'd just like to comment on what Councillor Bain said. I agree. I think it does, help to understand, where we spend money and give people a good concept of how much money we do spend. That being said, $2 million in the first quarter, and my mind goes to, so what if we could save 10% of that? It's a chunk of money. So in that light, I kind of looked through it and wondered if there's places I thought we could maybe tighten our purse strings and see what we can do. First one that comes to mind is we have 4 different agreements for internet, 3 with TELUS, 1 with Shaw, and we spent $4,000 in the first quarter, and some of those are only up to the February billing. So it's a significant amount of money. Is there no bulk package deal you can get? I mean, the same way as homeowners do? Is there something we can look at here?
Thank you very much. Excellent question. CFO?
Well, TELUS is our main provider. The reason we have Shaw, it was, I believe, it was for our server. Now the Public Works Manager might be able to help me on this. If TELUS goes down, then we want to have Shaw to back it up in case, because sometimes only one goes down instead of the other, so our server can always keep running.
Councillor Cunliffe, I hope you're taking note of this.
I certainly am.
I don't know, does that ring a bell, Public Works Manager? But I will look into it. But I know that TELUS is our main provider, and we do try to get the best rates we can.
So the question is consolidation. Can you give us either an email or a one line or whatever you do?
Yeah, what I'm saying is we are consolidated with TELUS.
Thank you.
Shaw is just the backup.
Say yes, then Councillor Abbott. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just, well, part of that question was we seem to have 3 different TELUS agreements. But anyway, can you look into that and get back to us? I have another question on the new community garden. By the way, I think it looks spectacular. But garden was built as an operating cost. There was no CapEx discussion on that. And I see in this particular report, we spent $12,000 on materials alone. can I ask that staff come back to us and advise what the true budget was of the total cost, including labor and equipment? I know it was done by the workshop. What the value of that project was?
We don't track our public works time separately for that. It wouldn't have gone specifically to that project. Our budget was 7,500, and I think we came in around 8,000. I think some of the costs you were looking at, like we would make a purchase and we describe it best we can, but it wasn't just for the community gardens. Some of those purchases, so the total wasn't 12,000. Last we calculated it, we were a little over budget. It was around 8, but we didn't track the public works time separately on that. We just consider it part of their job working on parks. So it would have just been coded to parks.
Well, I feel we should have tracked that as a project. I really do.
Thank you for your point of view.
$12,000 or even 8 or 10 on materials. It's probably a $30,000 project.
And we don't track time by projects. We're not set up to do it, and it's very time consuming. It's just basically part of Public Works job, all the projects they do. So we put it into categories on the timesheet, but we don't track by project. Difficult to do. It would be quite a bit of extra work.
Councillor Abbott, another.
Sure, I'll keep moving. I think we could debate on tracking what we spend all our hours, but anyway, to the comment last week, Ron, you suggested I should not ask about laptops because the cost goes up. Well, I see on top of page 94, the CA laptop was $3,400, and somewhere later down there's another $500 for laptops, sleeves, keyboards, and mouses. So, you know, your prediction came true. Now $4,000 laptop. On that
Actually,
same page further
Councillor
down.
Abbott, Councillor Abbott, as with the previous question that the CFO is going to look up for us. CFO, we get a response back on that when you have the time?
So I didn't hear the question.
Oh, it's the laptops. What are we getting for the laptop costs? Thank you very much. Again, at next meeting it'd be fine, but just concise, doesn't it? Or an email in between. Councillor Abbott, you're on a roll here.
Yeah, I'm getting close. George and Bell Consulting. This is the actuarial sick time that we. This is where who we employed to do that. I assume, Pam, what we were talking about earlier. This $2,200.
Are we what? I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
Could you repeat,
George and
please?
Bell Consulting. It's described as actuarial sick time. Is this the calculation you were referring to earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Well, I assume it'll be enclosed, but I would be very interested to see that report or some detail of how it's calculated.
Can you send that to council members?
It's just a number. It's a one-page report. They don't go into the details, but I can.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. It's a one-page report. As with the other ones, CFO will send it to us.
It's a $2,200 calculation. Is that what I'm
I'm
hearing?
just saying they don't provide the detail. There's a lot of background detail. It's an actual review, but we get a summary report. It's the same as we used to get in West Vancouver when we did it there. I can send you the report, but it doesn't go into the detailed calculation of every single thing they look at.
Okay, well, Councillor Abbott, once you've got the information, you can raise the questions again.
Okay. Thank you. I think it might be one last question, or maybe one more. There's some items on lumber for trail maintenance. Was this the signage project? We don't provide, or is this a workshop trail projects? Or I'm assuming we don't supply material to the Trailblazers group.
We do provide items to the Trailblazers.
We do?
We did this year, but we don't normally, but we did this year.
We did.
But I don't know which sense you're speaking of. Which page are you on?
Which page are you on, Councillor?
There's a couple of them on the bottom of, hang on a minute. They're mixed in with some of the Kelvin Grove Garden stuff. So page 95 towards the bottom, there's one says trail lumber, and there's a few other ones.
On Councillor Abbott's behalf, CFO, can I get you to circle around on those would appear to be wood material purchases?
Yeah, so I'm still unclear. I can see the one lumber trail maintenance. So you're saying anything that says lumber trail maintenance, you want additional backup on?
Councillor Abbott, lumber trail maintenance, you'd like some details?
Sure, thank you. Well, I just wanted confirmation of what we are spending it on. It was only added up to $1,002, a couple of $100 if I remember. Sorry, but $1,200 if I remember correctly. I didn't realize we are providing lumber for the trailblazing committee.
Just did one.
And
Just
I
in
wondered if this
January.
was the signage project, that's all.
This one, with this one with the Trailblazers was a one-off. It was just a little bit larger than they normally do. And it's just much easier for us to go and do the direct purchase and deliver it right at the site to them.
Okay.
Your final question?
I've got a question on the document scanning. If I remember correctly, there was a budget for that in our first year on council, and then I thought I heard that staff were doing it. And now I see we're employing someone again, spent $7,000 in the last few months.
Staff were just preparing the files to send to the scanning because all staples there's a certain preparation of the files. We wanted to go through them, take out material that didn't need to be scanned to give us an opportunity to go through all of the property files. And then once that was done, they were sent to be scanned. So we've always outsourced the scanning. But it was a big staff project. There was a lot of work involved by staff as well to get the files ready. And then when they come back to refile them, and then we get a list of all the files, so then they all have to be named and filed into our database.
Okay. One query, or one sort of odd one. Donation to Muscular Dystrophy of Canada. I'm not saying it's a bad place to donate, but who decides what donations
That was made by the fire department. That was every year they donate.
Oh yes, okay. I know the program. Sorry, didn't make.
But I don't know where it is. But I often tell Councillor Abbott by the check number. Their check numbers are a little different. They're usually just 4 digits, 00, and then 4 digits. So that's how you can tell if it was a fire check. But that was the donation that the fire department made last year. That's right, this year. I apologize. They made it this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
One last one. Could we get a breakdown of the payments to our lawyers, Lindstrom and Company?
I'm sorry, to who?
To whom, Councillor Abbott?
Lindstrom, the lawyers. Lindstone?
Lindstone, okay.
Lindstone and Company?
Yeah.
To which lawyers on specific, on the
Just
subset checks?
Just a list of what we spent the money on, or some sort of breakdown on it.
Okay, we'd have to go. Okay, some of that might have to be enclosed, and we'd have to go back to every invoice. And basically, they're 4-page invoices with a list of everything they've done. You have to pull every invoice.
It is fairly time consuming. Is there a benefit to this that I'm not aware of?
That is just a significant number, and I was just wondering what it was. In my mind, I didn't realize we were spending that much on legal.
Well, it can be done, but it's time consuming. And is that what you want me to spend my time on?
Yes, please.
I think that should be put to a vote of council.
Okay.
How much time are we thinking here, Peter?
Pardon me?
How much time would you expect?
Oh, I don't know if it's just these particular checks, or are we talking about every legal check that we send out, and for how long? I mean, is it one thing leads to another, or is it limited to this? I mean, and if so, what purpose does it serve, as I said? So yes, it can be done, but I mean, is that how you want me to spend my time?
Okay, okay, so Councillor Abbott, do you want this put to a
But I
vote?
think
Or?
the question should really be, what's the total number we're looking at for legal fees, and how much money do we spend on
We
auditing
budget
that?
it every year. It's a separate line item in the budget. We're always under budget. And how much we spend, it would just be a sum of all the Lindstone payments we've made in the first quarter. It's just that legal bills are very detailed.
I guess I'm just trying to weigh the value in Neville's ask. So I don't know how much we pay in legal fees every year. Is there a rough number that is it 20,000, 30,000?
$20,000 to $25,000.
$25,000.
It varies.
That's the budget.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever had it.
Yeah, the budget's higher.
Oh, okay.
And it
Would
varies,
we-
right from 15 to 20. Like I said, it's just the legal bills themselves. I mean, they're 3 to 4 pages of listing of every, it's hard to summarize them. That's one of the reasons it's hard to summarize them on here.
So this is, can I ask a question,
Sure.
please? Would it be possible to then, instead of trying to summarize, just provide a couple of these invoices to us enclosed to look at, and that way we get to see it real time? That seems like it may streamline the process somewhat.
Sure, we could produce these, in this invoice.
There you go, Councillor Abbott. Let's cut to the quick on the issues here. It's staff time to find something that, and this would be your call in a minute, whether you want this to go to council vote on the details of our legal expenditures, like fine details of the legal expenditures, which needless to say gets into the fine operational pieces of our enterprise, not the governance pieces that we are hired for. So my question, Mr. Abbott, is that I'm happy to put this forward to a vote, or we can go with Councillor Cunliffe's suggestion of some random invoices, I believe, could come forward so we could gauge a flavor. Your call.
I'm not
Okay,
suggesting a forensic.
How many
edit.
hours are we talking about here, Peter? I mean, if this is 10 hours or 16 hours of staff time, you know, what is that effectively costing the taxpayer to audit $20,000 or $25,000 worth of expense? Is that adding?
To bring the invoices, I'll just take copies of the invoices and we can bring them to a closed meeting. It does seem unusual to start bringing invoices to a council meeting.
If it's the invoices coming in, Councillor Barnard, the cost is zero.
Well, it's still someone's time.
Excuse me.
Well, other than the
It
photocopying.
would be very quick to just bring the invoices.
Okay, so we want to spend $100 to audit this versus, I mean, we're essentially asking to spend money to do this. I just want to be clear about that. It's not free when we ask staff to do this.
It's staff time. Councillor Abbott, where would you like to go with this? Choice of two.
Well, if it's just a case of putting some invoices and do it ourselves, that's fine. I thought it would be a fairly simple ask, and I would have thought staff would know where we're spending that money. But anyway, yes.
So you're fine with the invoices coming at the next closed meeting?
Yep, I guess then I'll just look at it myself. Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions on the AP list?
No, thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll call a motion to receive the information as presented. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Next one, which is item 10.5, 10B, which is the 2020 audited financial statements, which we've seen is on page 103, and it's a.
That's remuneration. You missed council remuneration.
Oh, sorry, moved that one. I apologize. Item 4, council remuneration, which is on page 99 of the package, and that the report council remuneration be received for information purposes. That's pretty straightforward. We're going to be addressing it again later in the evening. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you very much. Any discussion on this piece? Not much to say since we're going to be seeing it again later. I think that is everybody concurs. I'll call a motion. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Okay, carried.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we are on item number 5, which is the audited financial statements. And that the Village of Lions Bay 2020 audited financial statements as presented to council on May 4th, 2021 be approved pursuant to the community charter section 167 in brackets 1, and that the 2020 audited financial statements be included in the 2020 annual report pursuant to the Community Charter, Section 98. I will put forward that motion. And a second, please. Seconder, please. Thank you very much. Any discussion on this? Any final questions for CFO? There being none, call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes, or any alternative, no.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much, CFO. I think that pretty much puts a big happy face on your reporting calendar. There you go. Thank you very much. Next item is number 6, which is Lions Bay Community Signage Installation Report from resident, which is on page 105. And it is that the Lions Bay Community Signage Report from the resident be received. I'll put that forward. Can I have a second, please? Thank you very much. And if we could just pause for a second. I see Mayor Burr had sent me a note. I'm not sure if is he in the gallery? Hang on for a second. Just a second. If I may, Mayor Burr has sent me a note, and he was unable to come into the meeting, and there was no public participation at the front. And I'm paraphrasing some of this up. The cover note to the report he provided, he felt was sparse. And here's what he would also like to say. Thank you for funding a further piece of the community signage report. In the report you considered tonight, there are 5 potential action items. 1, an option to redo $400 worth of signs if council feels there's value to have the if there's value to having the feedback@lionsbay.ca email address on them. Okay. 2, a recommendation for 4 further signs from the original project updated. 3, a reminder that adjunct to the watershed protection sign, there was a project pending with the BC Mountain Club to install permanent composting toilets. If we actually want to address human waste in the watershed, given the likelihood that it will not be possible to close recreational access to a watershed, the province might be induced to participate too. Number 4, recommendations for other community-facing signage which council might see value in and want to direct staff to deliver by a deadline rather than having it trickle through the normal process. 5, observations on parking signage that might improve the situation. We'll leave it at that. Regards, Mayor Burr.
Was that on table or was that sent to you directly?
He just sent it to council. I just opened it up right now. He sent it 10 minutes ago.
Different from the recommendations that are in his report on beginning on page 116. So he's moving the goalposts, and there's a lot of information here. There's some of it that is not necessarily matters that ought to be simply adopted by council. There are some things that staff are not in agreement with respect to some signage in the watershed and the intake areas and so forth. So there's a lot of meat and potatoes here that need careful consideration, and it's not something that I think council ought to be plowing through at this meeting and coming up with a way forward or direction to staff on. I think that if there are specific things in here that, as I mentioned in the cover sheet, there's additional commentary and recommendations from Mr. Burr that bear further consideration, but there are, there's there's more than just his perspective on this. So it is something that would require further further time and effort to lay out what he's talking about and pick out the areas that it makes sense and the areas where there are difficulties and challenges and whatnot. So my comment on it.
Thank you very much, CEO.
Is there a way, so I mean, really, this is an information report. It reflects the good work done. I've seen the signs for myself. The quality are, you know, they're very nice signs. It's definitely an improvement. You know, and it's definitely elevated. I would say it's elevated the appearance of the village. So it's a very nice project. Is there a way to take his recommendations forward into the next meeting and our unfinished business to make sure we don't lose track of these things and know what that looks like? Do you want to evaluate his recommendations, Peter, so that you can put your staff lens on it and let us know what the issues are that you see?
If I may, Peter, the signage for the watershed, that's done in conjunction with the drinking water protection officer. So changing those signs is not an option. That would be sign 16 that he talks about. With respect to the composting toilets, we are in contact with the province, the Flinroe and the Vancouver Coastal Health Drinking Water Protection Officer. So changes to that are off the table. 18 and 19 are the raw water intake locations. Staff don't believe it's in our best interest to identify where those are by signage. It just invites the potential for people to access and potentially contaminate or play with the water intakes. So pinpointing their location by placing signage is not something that staff recommend.
Thank you very much. Back to CEO DeJong's original comments and yours, Public Works Manager. I believe representing council, we all appreciate the outstanding work that Mayor Burr and his team have done here, which has had significant amount of happiness to our villagers. I think given that they made a request, there's some issues here. I'm happy to receive the item, but I'm thinking that, and I don't know your work agenda for the next council meeting. Would you be up to doing it for the next council meeting, do a cross-reference, or the one after, or are we good for right now?
I think that I know I would not anticipate being able to come back with something on this at the next meeting, possibly the one after that. But you know, we've got our plates full with a lot of different things, including trying to ramp up and implement all the changes necessary with respect to the 2021 parking plan, and that's, I think, needs to take priority over this. This is something that I think we can come back to at some point, but right now we don't have the time to do it.
Thank you very much. If we were to ask that it come back to us in 2 or 3 council meetings?
I say July, end of July, once we've got everything else. You know, we've got to get things going for the heat of the summer and make sure that we're
I think we agree.
priorities.
Okay. Thank you very much for your candor on that. Councillors, staff have told you what their workload is and their priorities are. I appreciate what Mayor Burr is asking too, and he's the one that was out there on the trails and doing a lot of the good work. I think if staff's not in a position to get back to us till July, that's what it is. But I'll ask council members by poll where they are with this. Councillor Bain, are you fine with letting it sit till July?
Yeah, I think it's not an urgent thing, but I commend Carl for the work that he's done, and to Norm's comment, it's really a nice addition to the community. But I think we should measure our steps on this and do it when it's more appropriate in time wise.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, your thoughts?
Yeah, probably no more than to echo what's just been said. It's fine. I don't think there's any urgency in any of these actions, and generally replacing a sign that's really sort of performing a function, I don't necessarily think it's a great big benefit. So
Thank you very much.
take it over time.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Barmary, your views?
Yeah, I don't think there's any urgency at all. I just wanted to understand staff's position on some of the signs. It'd be nice to have that down on paper to sort of be able to discuss it. I just like the idea of a cohesive look, and it seems that we've got a resident, former mayor, putting in a lot of effort, so it's worth capitalizing on that work.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cunliffe?
Yeah, there's really nothing left for me to say on that. I echo all of my other councillors, but I do want to just show my appreciation to former Mayor Burr and his team and the hard work that they did, and appreciate all the effort. So thank you very much. And I'll look forward when this comes back.
Then twofold on this one. I presume I'll have council's blessing that I write back to Mayor Burr and his team, expressing our tremendous gratitude for the work they've done, that his report and his email has been received, and that given the staff pressures on the parking plan and other matters, that we're looking forward to reviewing the request again in July. Would that be fine with everyone?
Yes.
I'll presume yes on that one. Thank you very much, and I'll do that. Relative to the next item, the mayor, I have nothing to report. Council members Abbott and Bain, you've got a Block Watch verbal update that I'd appreciate if you could share with us.
Do you want to start now and I'll finish?
So Fred, do you want to go? Or?
Whatever. Well, I'll continue what I started to say. We've been contacting the Block Watch Society based out of Vernon, and got their input as to the requirements that it would take to continue it, even though we wouldn't have the oversight of the Squamish RCMP. They gave us the example of Lillooet, where they're operating the system and doing quite well, apparently. I don't have the details. Neville and I are working together on this. I think, Neville, you probably know more about that than I do. Well, you?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I was going to refer to the minutes from the last meeting when the statement was made, basically that council wanted to do this. The municipality needs someone from staff. That's not strictly true. In conversations with Lillooet municipality, they basically said, yeah, we just cut the checks. The residents run the whole program. So yeah, we accept there would be a connection to someone in staff, but it shouldn't create any onerous time on the staff commitment. That's not the intention. I just trying to think what else. We've sort of reached out. We've spoken to Ruth. I think what we really need is council to agree that we should pursue this at this moment, and I would expect that we might have to come back with more information to get a resolution, or if council can trust this is really a very small ask. It's not going to impact on staff. The fees to join are small or bordering on next to nothing, $100 odd or something, if I remember correctly. All in, this might be a $500 budget a year going forward with what we have in mind. So I'd like to ask that we get council's agreement that we pursue this.
Is Councillor Abbott, is your request that council confirm discretion of $1,000 expenditure in a manner that moves us forward on this?
I said 500 and you doubled it again.
Well, you know, it's like the computers, you never guess right.
Yeah, it would have to be, you know, supplementary budget. I'm not sure exactly when we need that, because obviously we've still got to go sign up to the society, and that included more than just signing up to the society. That was just kind of forecast of what we might need.
I'm with you. I don't want to slow you down between council meetings.
Okay. Would it be appropriate to take a resolution now, or does council feel they need something further?
I just put one forward. I'll take you as a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion?
It seems like a no-brainer to me.
There you go. From the staff component, any issues here, CAO?
Well, my support would be with you all the way if it can be done in a manner that is volunteer-led and really the administrative portion of it is kept to a minimum. That'd be great. That'd be the ideal situation, more or less, by the sounds of it.
Very good. Thank you very much, CAO. So Councillors Bain and Abbott, I prefer this verbal format for ease of and the way you're working through the issue. We can use the minutes as your reporting scheme, so you can just update as you go along in ensuing council meetings. I don't think we're looking for reports. You're going in the right direction. We want to assist you with speed. So if there's nothing further, you've got some funding, you've got our blessings. Thank you very much.
Sorry, what was the resolution?
Thank you. At Councillors Bain and Abbott's discretion, up to $1,000 has been concurred to by council to further our participation in the Block Watch or Block Watch Light program. Councillor Abbott, that close enough?
That's fine. I'm not asking for $1,000, but yes, I'd just like a resolution to proceed on a volunteer basis with a volunteer-driven initiative.
Well, I'm putting forward the $1,000, so we don't have to do it again. You can do nothing if you want. Try and negotiate better. I'll call the motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Very much, carried.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Councillors Abbott and Bain, for the work on this. That'd be a great win for us. Next piece is item D. And this is the recommendation from Trees, Views and Landscapes. This may take us a little bit of time. I'm not going to read it all out other than reference it. So that the Trees, Views and Landscape Committee recommends to council that council approves the tree cutting permit application number 109 subject to the following, and it's ABC 1 and 2. To get us on to the floor, I'll confirm that recommendation, ask for a second, but know that there's going to be some changes and discussion pending. Can I have a second, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Bain. Councillor Abbott, I think if I can ask you to draw the remarks that you want to make and tie it in with the numerous on table that would formally be correspondence, but support what I believe you want to do. If I could give you the floor, Councillor Abbott.
Okay. Just before I do that, there was another email from a resident who we'd seen by the email, we got it late. He's a neighbor to the trees, asking some questions. So well, we can come back to that later. I think we should obviously address that later. But first to the question about cutting trees in the songbird nesting season. You're correct, there was three emails from residents on this matter. There's been many over the years. I've spoken about this many times over the years. And I believe there's still a misconception amongst many, including those on council and in the tree committee. The tree committee bylaw says that if you're cutting trees in the songbird nesting season, you have to comply with the provincial regulations. What the regulations say is that you have to ensure that there are no birds in the trees. That does not happen. It's impractical. And in the case of this, where we have 18 trees being affected, I can guarantee you it cannot be done. I feel we need to improve that bylaw, and we need to stipulate that we will not allow tree cutting in the songbird nesting season. And in this case of this particular permit, regardless of the outcome, the rest of the discussion on the permit, I've given that there's so many trees, I think we should instruct the applicant that he cannot do it until the end of the songbird nesting season. And I would appeal to my council members to support me on those two actions.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, can I, and I'll seek some technical advice here. Office coordinator heard his request. What would we be going to amend it here?
Well, it does say in the motion that they should comply with the bylaw restrictions regarding bird nesting season.
Yes, but I understand that there's a way that an arborist who is employed by the applicant could also be the tree faller. And I believe Councillor Abbott's trying to get around that, and that there is just absolutely no cutting during the bird nesting season. Is that correct, Councillor Abbott?
Yes, and I think anyone can look at the amount of trees we intend to cut here and go out to that area, because around sunset, and just listen, and you can know for a fact there's no ways an arborist is going to remove all these trees without destroying bird nests. It's not possible, even if he does have the best intentions, and that's what happens all the time. And we need to be stronger on this.
Councillor Abbott, I think we've got the idea here. So just for clarity, that this recommendation, the suggestion is that it's modified, that no cutting be done during the burning season, correct?
That is what I'd like to see, yes.
Thank you very much. So we'll hold that.
It hasn't been moved or seconded. It's a committee recommendation, so we could amend it.
Okay.
If you want at the moment.
So if I can jump in here, the bylaw doesn't actually reference the regulation. What the bylaw does is it stipulates its own restriction. What the bylaw says is, in order to protect nesting birds, no tree cutting may be carried out between March 1st and July 31st in any given year, unless an arborist certifies that there are no bird nests in the subject tree or trees. So that's what the bylaw says. That's the bylaw's restriction, and I take Councillor Abbott's comments about and the correspondence that identifies the size of the birds, the size of the nest, the impossibility of determining for an arborist even to determine that they're free of any birds or nests. But that's what the bylaw says. So we have an application that is based upon and a recommendation that is based upon compliance with our bylaw as it presently stands. So what you're asking, in effect, is that a restriction be placed on the granting of any order with respect to this application, such that the restriction is over and above the restriction that is presently contained in our bylaw. So you're setting a higher standard than what is in our bylaw presently.
And there's, Peter, there is precedence. We've done this once before.
For this particular subject matter?
Yes.
Can you refresh our memories on that? It might be helpful.
Seaview, neighboring resident came in, she left the room and said, "The birdies, thank you." Do you remember that? Yes, I think most people do. Yeah, and we said, no, you cannot take the trees down until the end of the songbird nesting season. And that was because one of the neighboring residents asked for it.
If I can bring everybody back here, thank you very much, CAO. We got the piece. I believe that following this recommendation, presuming the council members concur, Councillor Abbott will be asking that staff amend the bylaw for the next council meeting to amend it such that there is no cutting during the birding season.
Question, is it possible that even the applicants aren't aware of this bylaw and the potential implications of nesting habitat? I mean, is there an opportunity for maybe some resident, maybe a view article or something to highlight that that's a consideration when you're making an application? I just wonder if an applicant knew that, maybe they'd feel differently about an application being rejected on that basis. Maybe they weren't aware that that actually is a thing that we need to worry about.
I would agree there's an education piece that could follow up with this. I was under the assumption that there was no cutting trees during nesting season, and I thought it was April 01 to September 31. I wasn't aware it was only to July. So definitely some education, but I do think that this is a bylaw that does need amended.
Okay, so back to, if I can draw everybody back to the two pieces here. One, that per Councillor Abbott's request that we single out this one for a higher standard, and that two, and that will be done, I presume, by amendment in a second. And that two, that with the council's concurrence to Councillor Abbott's request, that he'll be asking staff to amend the bylaw to reflect that at the next council meeting.
So I would suggest that this particular application be tabled and or deferred to the next council meeting. In the meantime, staff to confirm legal advice that you can actually hold someone to a higher standard than your bylaw. But if the instruction or direction of council is also to bring back, consider it for consideration a bylaw amendment in the terms that have been more or less outlined, then that would be considered at the next meeting. But I think that in the interim, this particular application should be deferred and not ruled on in any particular way, one way or the other, would be my suggestion from a legal perspective.
Thank you very much for wearing your corporate officer hat. I'm fine with that recommendation. It accomplishes two aims that are trying to be, I believe, are trying to be accomplished here. I would further add that in speaking with the chair of the Tree Fields Landscapes Committee, the committee would be supportive of no cutting during the birding season. Councillor Abbott, I presume you would be favorable to tabling this and seeing the full review with potential changes at the next council meeting?
Yes, I just have one question and one comment. So just to be clear, there is a federal regulation around this, right? And it's almost like a loophole that happens in municipalities where you can get by having the arborist say there's no birds in the trees. I work on big construction projects all over the country. We are not allowed to start any tree work in the songbird nesting season. We never do it. We plan the projects around it. It's not a big ask. And there is federal regulations around it. The other point I have, we all received an email from a neighbor on this. And if we are tabling it, then maybe that can be considered in due course. But I wonder, if someone could explain to me, there's a neighbor that's applied and he would seem to be living on the property immediately adjacent to the trees being cut. And he wasn't consulted because he's not immediately adjacent to the applicant, which seems kind of odd to me. And that email was in our inboxes a little earlier. I guess the person in question never noticed I never realized that this application was coming forward.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. So let's just quickly recap. Thank you for your minuted, so it's there for staff to review and to consider as part of their pending report and recommendation, given the flavor of what we told them. So I think that I didn't go through the balance of the councillors. Councillor Bain, are you in favor of tabling?
Yeah, more or less. Well, the one thing on this side, though, I just think, is the applicant being informed about the consequences to the trees being cut during the nesting season, and would he be amenable on his own just to defer it until after the 31st of July, and then we could go ahead and easily amend the bylaw.
I think that I would be careful we all focus this date of 31st of July. That's not the current recommended nesting season if you look at the provincial websites. It's later than that. But so please don't focus on the date. I think we should just talk about the songbird nesting season as it's currently defined.
To Councillor Abbott and Councillor Baines points to this before I go to the other two. The meeting was held last week. Everybody that was within the vicinity, I looked at all the homes that were canvassed, largely a whole bunch of no interest. And the applicant and the neighbor across the street attended. I think we're getting into some of the minutiae here, but Councillor Abbott has pointed out the two key points. One relative to this application, which is the CAO and his team are going to investigate and review for a legal precedence. And the other one is the going forward piece. So that whole report will come back. So I think we're in stand down tabled. And so I am in favor of it. Councillor Abbott is. Councillor Baden, I think you're looking for greater outreach, but that's not going to happen until we see the report. That's fine with you.
No, I'm fine with what's been moved forward now. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barmere, are you fine with this being tabled, knowing that it's about the current one and probably change of legislation? Is that a yes?
Yeah, I support that idea.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cunliffe, are you the same?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. The matter even sitting in discussion is tabled, correct? It's recorded. Thank you very much. Which brings us to item number 11, resolution. Yep.
Are you directing staff to bring back a bylaw or an amended bylaw?
No, bring back a
Recommendation.
an amendment for consideration of council in accordance with the discussion at this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number resolutions, there are none. Bylaws. Office coordinator, new job, I see. Here we go. The next one up is the request for decision on the bylaw enforcement bylaw and policy amendment. That's number 12, bylaw A. That bylaw notice enforcement bylaw number 385, 2006 amendment bylaw number 592, 2021 be introduced and read the first, second, and third time. 2, that council approves screening officer policy number 2101 as presented at the May 4 regular council meeting. And 3, that upon adoption of bylaw notice enforcement bylaw number 385, 2006 amendment bylaw number 592, 2021, council appoints Carla Duarte, municipal coordinator, as a screening officer as per bylaw number 385, 2006 as amended. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a seconder, please, by show of a hand? Thank you. This actually, before we go to discussion, are you pitching your new job, office coordinator? Or what are we doing here? Is there a pay raise in this?
No, is there?
Is there? Here's a recommendation. Come on.
I'll speak to
Okay,
it,
CAO.
in terms of assisting myself with the number of disputes that we get. It was deemed a good idea to have Carla also because she does screen these before I look at them, and she gives me the lowdown, speed things up if she had some ability to handle those that she's comfortable with. And in that sense, looking at our screening officer policy and comparing it to some others, There, as you can see from the draft that's attached to this report, it's much more comprehensive and covers all the bases in both law and otherwise, is more of a gold standard that we ought to be ascribing to and meeting. It will assist us as well in terms of the processes that we follow for adjudication requests. So we're looking to ramp up some of our procedures so that we're doing things more efficiently and that we've got everything backed up and using the best possible policies and procedures going forward. And that's what this is about, really. In the process, we have always had provision for compliance agreements, but no real sort of precedent type of agreement to follow. So that's set out as Schedule C to the bylaw. And as well, there are some changes in terms of the provisions in Section 10 of Bylaw 413, which is the traffic and parking bylaw, in terms of the applicability of compliance agreements. And other than changing, adding Carla's position as a class of person to which council can appoint a screening officer, that pretty much covers off what this is about.
Thank you very much. In essence, streamlining and efficiency and based off lessons learned from last year.
And support for the CAO.
And not lastly, support for the CAO. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much for that report. Discussion, please. Any questions?
I have a question, not particularly to the role change, which I am supportive of. But when I was reading this, I was a little confused as to how the early payment as well as late payment is affected by someone putting in an application to dispute. In other words, if you put application to dispute and then you get a response, whether it's positive or negative, do you then still have the option for an early payment? Or are you now pretty much forced to pay a late payment? It doesn't read, I couldn't quite work that out when I read it. Maybe someone can just confirm that for me.
I think our
You still have
It's the
14
option.
days. Another 14 days from when you receive a response to your dispute. So while it's under dispute, the penalty doesn't increase because it's, we're taking their time in reviewing their dispute. So when they receive their response, they still have another 14 days where we honor the early discount penalty.
Okay, so you can still get the early discount even though you disputed it.
Yeah, so the initial dispute process is, back of the ticket or an email. It's reviewed right away, and then we decided it's sorry, but this is going to stand. We don't see that there's a basis for the validity of your supposed dispute. Then at that point, if they pay it up within 14 days, they can pay the discounted amount. If they don't, then it's regular rate, and beyond, still don't pay.
Okay, thanks.
There you go. Other councillors, any questions? I call the motion in a minute. Any last chance for questions? Great opportunity for efficiency. And again, off the volume that we did last year with, correct me if I'm wrong, Office Coordinator, 1,000 tickets. Maybe more.
Yeah. Almost.
1,000 tickets, 400 disputes. Probably.
Can't remember, but
Okay.
it seems
A
like
lot,
1,000
hundreds of
disputes
disputes,
every
hundreds of
day.
disputes. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Alternatively, if you're opposed, please say no.
Yes.
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 Adopted. Thank you very much. Next up is the bylaw number 595, 2021, the 2025 5-year financial plan. Bylaw number 595. Say it twice in this, okay. 595, 2021, that the financial plan be adopted. This is the last call for this one. I'll put forward that motion. I have a second with a hand. Thank you. Any discussion? You're late, Councillor Burmer. Any discussion? That's you, or you're just hand up? You're good? Okay, thank
There
you.
might be a bit of a lag on my video.
Could be that it's 2 hours later for you.
Right.
Thank you very much. Any discussions, any questions on the plan? No, we'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. If
Yes.
you alternately opposed, please say no. All in favor, thank you. The tax rate bylaw number 5/9/2021. The recommendation and the motion is that they be introduced and given 3 readings and adopted. I will put forward that motion. I have a seconder by a hand. Thank you very much. Any discussion? I don't think we need the CAO to fill us in anymore. No discussion?
I've argued against this all the way along, so just as you rush through, I will be voting no, and I think everyone knows the reason why. Once again, I think we should have aligned ourselves with some of the residents who are suffering hardship this time of the year with COVID, and so I'll be consistent and still be voting no for that reason alone.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other discussion? There being none, I'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Councillor Abbott, I believe you're opposed, so that's a no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Thank you very much, carried. Which brings us to traffic bylaw number 598, the traffic bylaw amendment bylaw, and the request and the motion is that the amendment for this bylaw number 598, 2021 be adopted. I'll put for that motion. Can I have a show of hand, please, for a second? Oh, nice try, Public Works Manager. Councilors, I need a hand. Thank you very much, Councilor Barmier. That's your second. Municipal Coordinator, did you want to brief us on this just for a quickie as we're down to last reading?
Just providing for the on-street pay parking.
This is the street parking piece, nothing else. Thank you.
The pay parking on street or such other parking areas as council may direct that.
Okay, as previously directed, thank you very much. Any questions for staff, councilors? There being none, call the motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed,
Yes.
no. Thank you, carried. Okay, I think we're on number E, is that correct? Yes, thank you. And this is a remuneration bylaw. And it's council remuneration bylaw number 552, 2018, amendment bylaw number 601, 2021. And the request in the motion is that this be read a first, second, and third time. I am opposed to this motion. I will not be voting in favor of it. I will not be putting it forward as a motion.
I'll put it forward, obviously.
Thank you very much. If
I have
there's
a second.
Who was the second?
I'm asking for a second.
Councilor Bain is the second. Thank you. Then we'll go to staff before we go to council discussion. CFO Rook, can you?
So at the last council meeting, staff were directed to bring an amended council remuneration bylaw, allowing council to pass a resolution at the end of each year. Council members to either waive or reduce their council salary for the upcoming year, or allow council to waive their collective consumer price index salary increase for the year. And that references a report that we had earlier in the meeting. And then if this does go ahead, then we're suggesting for 2021, because obviously you couldn't do it at the beginning of the year, council could then direct, a councillor could make a request that their salary be waived for the balance of the year or reduced to a set amount so that we could put it into the payroll for the remainder of the year. And in addition, if council passes, then council could go back to the report I brought in earlier, saying what the CPI index was for 2020, and they could determine whether or not they wanted to waive that salary, but that would have to be a council vote, and it would have to be passed by a majority of council. And the amended bylaw is attached with those changes for council review. And are there any questions?
Any questions for the CFO?
Yeah, sorry, can I just get clarity on that, Pam? Pass the regulation, we pass the bylaw tonight. Then in the next meeting, May 25th, would be the opportunity to vote on either waiving or sorry, I've got the two terms the wrong way around, you know what I mean? Either waiving the increase or giving up some part of your salary, correct?
And I could go through the CAO, but I believe we could do that at this meeting if the bylaw passes. Oh, no, sorry, we'd have to adopt it. You're correct. I was thinking back to the tax rate where we're doing 3 readings and adoption. Yes, you're correct. If it is adopted at the next meeting, then at that meeting could get council direction on an individual salary or from all of council to if they wanted to waive their 2020 increase.
So at the May 25th meeting, if it passes, then you would make a notice of motion that would then be voted upon at the June 15th meeting. Wouldn't be voted upon at the May 25th.
Okay. Municipal wheels grind slowly. That's fine. So just for clarity, then maybe I'll go first and I put this forward and I put it forward last time. So tonight, all we do is
for Pam. Sorry, I before we part of the report I had asked for in the last meeting regarding this was how much administrative cost we're adding. I just want to understand what this ask is going to result in staff time every time a councillor wants to donate a portion of their salary if they don't want to.
It would just be a one-time thing. We can't actually do it throughout the year. It would have to be a one-time thing either at the June 15 meeting or then if it passes at the beginning of the year. And that part wouldn't be too much work. We just have to go in and we have to go into the payroll system and change the salary. So
for each person.
Yes, anybody who wanted their salary waived or reduced, once the motion would pass, we would have to go into payroll. So it would be
one-time thing once a year.
One time, maybe a couple of hours of work, and that would be it.
Okay.
I believe a question was asked too in terms of what amount of money we were talking about in terms of the impact of the tax, but I can't answer that because tax rates are based on the taxpayer's entire remuneration. So I have no idea, nor should I, of what tax rate any councillor, any member of council pays. I know that if you just look at the council salary in isolation, it technically attracts no tax if you take your full deduction. But of course, most people receiving a council remuneration have other forms of income. So the amount of tax paid in terms of, that was a question asked, that I don't know that. I mean, the maximum rate in Canada is in the high 40%. So basically, that part of the question I can't answer in terms of the impact.
And what would typically be a credit from the feds if you just donate your salary normally? Would we be considered a charitable organization? Could we write off? Yeah. So do you know what that credit is?
No, sorry. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I did my tax return 3 months ago. Yeah, I know there's a limit on it, and it goes into the tax credit section of your tax return.
Okay.
The value of the credit, again, is going to depend upon what income bracket you're in and the tax bracket that you're in.
Yeah, I'm trying to gauge the savings here and what the real, you know, are we just overcomplicating things for staff? And when there's no real tax savings to be had if the feds already give you a credit for a donation? I just wanted to understand that a bit more.
Further questions, colleagues?
I have a comment. I've put more thought into this, and while I do understand, you know, wanting more of the money to go back to the municipality as opposed to the feds, I also think that this could be really dangerous moving forward when it comes to future council and campaigning, and it sort of weaponizes the monetary portion of what we do, and therefore somebody might campaign on the fact that they're willing to donate everything back to the village, while somebody else may simply A, not be in the position to do that, or B, may put more value on their actual time. This is an important role that we hold, and we are compensated for it, and we should be, in my opinion. So eliminating putting this out there, I just feel like could open some doors that would very well be problematic in the future. So that's just some thoughts that I've had.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunliffe. I think Councillor Bain, you're the last and only one that has not spoken yet. I'm going to let you do that, and then I will be calling the motion. I think we understand the issues, and we'll go to vote.
Okay, yeah, I've just got a comment or two on it. I think freedom of choice is a really big issue, and if somebody wants to give their income away, to me, that's their business. Councillor Cunliffe's point, though, I think has merit, that it could cause complications in election time. Hadn't considered that, and I think it's worth considering. We are dealing with, I don't want to sound unappreciative, but they are very small numbers. So for myself, I wouldn't bother putting it aside, but I respect Councillor Abbott's desire to be able to do that. So I'm kind of riding on both sides of the fence on this one, but to me, it comes down to personal choice, and that should be honored.
Thank you very much.
I may have gotten a little confused here. I thought we were just asking questions of Pam for clarification. I didn't realize we had already started a discussion. If that's the case, I do have a few more comments.
Yeah, go ahead. And I would like to comment because I didn't get a chance yet.
Absolutely. I just want to be frank. You know, it feels like a bit of an odd tax dodge and a bad precedent to set. And doesn't really seem like a true donation in the sense, because there's just too many you know, oddities attached to it. If you want to donate, go straight up and just donate right from your salary and go for the tax deduction from the feds. I think that's the cleaner and less complicated way to do it. You know, I asked for clarification on the overhead and the administrative costs. It seems like it's minimal, but it is an added cost now. So we're kind of adding a bit more work to staff. And I don't know if it's a false gesture in a way. I do think the best way to do this is just straight up donate your earned money and make it clear that that's what you're doing. I worry also that it down the road, it could lead to some council complacency, because you could frame it as a voluntary exercise, and it kind of takes away your leverage with residents, because you're not really being paid for the work anyway. So I worry that it sets a bad precedent.
Thank you very much. Again, Councillor Abbott, I'm going to give you the last word on this one. I think the staff value is down to nothing now. This is getting close to vote. Please make your points.
Okay, so I'll make the same points I made last time, because there seems to be maybe a difference of opinion. These were the same. These points were all brought up last time. So for clarity, last time we not all, we voted in approval of this. I pointed out why I wanted to do this, and I'll just stipulate it again. I'll give you the actual example. The Curly Stewart Committee have decided they want to stop using residents' tax money for the award, and we want to raise funds so that it can be a self-funding award, and in the same way we'd like to increase the value of it. I said I would donate my council salary to match anyone's donations. The donations so far if I have to pay, and this salary goes on top of my existing salary, so it is the top tax bracket, I either have to donate 4 months of salary and send half of it to the feds in order to achieve that, or the village could just take 2 months of my salary, and I can choose to do what the rest of it. I already pay enough taxes. If I want to donate something, I'd like the full benefit of that money to go to the municipality and go into the Curly Stewart Fund. Simple as that. It's not a tax dodge, and I'm not trying to use it in an election campaign. And I can guarantee you that would never happen, and you can hold me to that if it ever happens. There's no ulterior motives here, just trying to make sure as much of the money that I want to donate goes directly to the village. As to whether I'm any better off one way or the other, well, the answer is probably no, because I could claim a tax
All right.
credit, but I get the money,
Councillor.
the village doesn't. I want the money to go to the village. In this case,
Councillor Abbott,
it's your
we
fund.
got the idea. I think we've got the idea, but you can make a final point and then I'm going to call a motion.
That is the final point. It's the only point I've made all along. We seem to talk about all sorts of other things, like I've got an ulterior motive. I do not.
All right, call a motion. I'm looking at my screen. I will go last. Councillor Bain, are you approving or declining this motion? Yes, the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes. Councillor Abbott, are you a yes?
I'm a yes.
Councillor Barmier, are you a yes or a no?
I'm a no.
Councillor Cunliffe, are you a yes or a no?
With all due respect to Councillor Abbott, I was by no means insinuating that there was any ulterior motive behind this. I understand 100% your motivation and wanting the funds to go back to the village. I just feel that this could open up a Pandora's box that in the future we may regret doing. So I am a no.
Thank you very much. In my view, this proposal demonstrates privilege and not equity, and that's not very popular today. Again, as Councillor Cunliffe, I believe that this is not contrived by Councillor Abbott. I think he's trying to do what he can, but it's about image here too. The second piece, it's not to practice anywhere in government elsewhere. Thirdly, it's at odds with my personal view that council is drastically underpaid, and this further undervalues the job. And lastly, I hate painfully say this, given what Councillor Abbott has said, that I believe that using the village as a vehicle for your personal tax structure and planning is not something I'd like to participate in. My vote is no.
Sorry, I take offense to that last remark. Thank you. That I'm using the village as a means for my personal tax planning?
I gave you full respect. It's what perception is. There you go. Next piece. We're done with that correspondence. And that would be drum roll, Councillor Bain for Councillor Barmeyer.
For the record, the mayor voted no and the motion was defeated.
Were you confused with that, Office Coordinator? She was
I'd
not.
just like to record the vote, please. There wasn't one.
Yeah, the vote is recorded and the motion failed.
Any other questions on this, Councillor Abbott?
No, move on.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bain sent a benchmark on a page of correspondence with third party and residents. So Councillor Barmeyer, I have my eye on the clock, just a rookie timeout. And we look forward to seeing you whistle through this.
I'll do my best. I'm on a small laptop, so I'm going to be going between Zoom and the PDF file just to make sure I'm paying every correspondence due respect. The first one coming from the mayor of City of Penticton. I guess it appears the province is trying to override some of their local bylaws, and they're looking for some support. I don't really know that there's much we can do other than receive it. The next is from MP Wheeler. It's a green and inclusive community building program launch. I'm suggesting that the Climate Action Committee educate itself around the implications of this program on Lions Bay. And so I'd like to mark it as received and to use it to inform the Climate Action Committee. Sunshine Coast Conservation Association. you know, I think we should support, and I would ask staff to provide direction on how we do this. You know, think of it in terms of a form and character DPA for the house sound. It's essentially trying to create an aesthetic that we can all buy into as a community and improve the area. So I think it's a worthwhile thing to support. I recognize it needs a little bit more input before we can get back to them. And Davidovitz, this appears to be, let me just take a look at this one.
If I can, Councillor Barnard, I get 3 emails a day from Mr. Davidovitz.
Okay, I was a little confused by this. I felt there wasn't enough correspondence to take appropriate steps, so I asked for staff advice, but if you have more information, Ron, that'd be great.
He is negative to everything TransLink does.
Okay, okay, I got it. I didn't realize there was history there. The next one is MP Wheeler, housing supply. This is for information, so I'd mark that as received. C. Peters wants to do a presentation regarding human trafficking. I would ask that staff point her to her right to present as a delegation. So she's like anyone else in the public invited to participate and do a presentation. The Forest Enhancement Society of BC, again, I think this is information for the Climate Action Committee to consider. So if we could forward that to the chair. Kay Guzalova, this is non-resident feedback for our parking plan. We should mark as received. Peace River Regional District, it's received, and the only comment I have, it sounds like an interjurisdictional dispute over weeds, and I get that that's a fair issue, but I don't know that there's anything we can do to support. District of Clearwater is looking to let us know that there's a federal 911 crisis line initiative. I don't know if it's something we could consider or talk about or figure out a way that we could voice our support for this. It's a worthwhile initiative. Town of View Royal, training hospital staff, I'd say we mark this as received. It doesn't apply to us. So this is a bigger one, and I fully support this initiative. I'm not, you know, I don't want to speak for council, but I have and witness Asian racism often, and I think it's long overdue that communities address this, and I would fully support us making this kind of statement. I'm not sure if that's something we can bring to the next council meeting to discuss a little further.
Councillor Barmayer, I suggest that if you want to do that, that you undertake that project.
Okay.
Today is May 10th.
We can make our own plan. You propose to do it to council, or are you asking for action now? The CEO was pointed out.
Sorry, thanks for pointing out the date, Peter. I didn't realize it was so soon. Today's the 4th. That's really aggressive. Is it something we could discuss now and simply proclaim and be in alignment with this?
We just appointed, or council just appointed somebody to the North Shore Community Spoke.
Yeah.
Is there, you know, something maybe that they're doing or something that comes out of that council could support? I don't know if they are or not. Do you know, Carla?
I haven't heard anything.
It seems like the kind of thing that they would potentially be looking into or lending their support to. Perhaps there's, and maybe they are involved in that. I don't know.
Is there a way to make a statement in the upcoming VU, just in recognition, just spread some education that this day exists and it's going to be Monday, May 10th? Education piece.
I'm not, thank you, Councillor Cunliffe, and I thank you very much, Councillor Barmer, for bringing this up. This is a right in your face thing. We have not supported things like this in the past, and for a variety of very many good causes and statements, we just shied away from it. Let's just quickly recap. We did just appoint Mrs. Cuthbertson to a group in the North Shore. I don't want to duck around the question about whether we support or not.
Yeah, I guess maybe the question is, you know, this is coming from the city of Burnaby, from the mayor there. We can do our own thing. It's just in the spirit of this, I'd like us to maybe just take it forward in some way.
You know, I think we can go in the water here a little bit. I would pitch that maybe in the village update, we do recognize this.
Even if we recognize their proclamation.
I mean, I'd be happy to leave it with staff to make it, I mean, the day is a day. But I think that, you know, with referrals to links and stuff like that, people can draw their own conclusions. I'm prepared to go that far in the water. Other councilor views?
I support that.
Councilor Bain? Yes? Yeah.
Sorry, my mute button disappeared. Yeah, I would support that.
Thank you very much. Councilor Abbott?
Sure.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Councilor Barmer. So to staff.
That was the last of general correspondence, and now it's on to residential.
Okay.
Charlie Bradbury emailed in and made some suggestions and observations around the overall parking plan, and I would suggest that I don't know if you got back to her yet, Ron. I saw some emails going back and forth, but I would like to suggest that we just take her observations and suggestions under advice.
I agree. CAO, I have a person, just relatively speaking, Councilor Barmer and I live near this resident. And if I've got this right, this would be where the no parking signs are on the upper side of the street between where the resident's house and mine is, which is a turn. Well, if you're going down the hill, everything's within line of sight. The curve actually doesn't mean anything. So I don't see that on the ocean view. The parking lot, I believe that's with the CAO for future decisions coming to us. I think the part about search and rescue parking seems like a good one. Never thought about that actually. Where do they go?
Yeah, it's been something that's been under consideration.
Okay, so that's fine. And the Bayview school parking, left side, right side.
Yeah, that's in progress. So there'll be some changes happening there, and I'll be doing that again today.
Councilor Barmer, I'll offer to write back on this one.
Yep, thank you, Ron.
Okay.
I believe.
Sorry, Peter.
From Kenneth. Oh, go ahead. Neville, sorry.
Just for clarity on the Bayview, sort of north side, south side, or I guess east and west. Are we making the change back to the way it used to be?
I don't know about the way it used to be, but the intent is to. We have a widening project on part of Bayview on the east side. And the idea is to ensure that there is adequate resident parking on the east side of the street. And then on the west side of the street, between the driveway to the parking lot and the entry to the school, is to be transitioned to pay parking. There's about 10 spots there. And then from the entry to the school to the corner of Stewart, well, almost to the corner of Stewart Road, that is actually a pedestrian / cycling lane. And so that is going to be reverted to no parking because there's no shoulder to pull off on other than at the very top. So there's room for 1 or 2 cars at the very top before the corner. Before the weekend comes, we're adding signage to Bayview Road beyond Stewart Road, where we have all the issues of people parking going up the street. And we're addressing some of the issues on Mountain at the beginning of Mountain before the weekend. But there's a lot of, we're building our signage order list. and setting out all the different areas. There's a lot of signage work to do. So it'll be a process, as I've said previously, over these couple of months to get everything in place.
But your key piece, it's about switching sides, the residents and the visitors and switching sides.
Yeah, and the straight in stalls at the school are to be resident / school business. So you can't park there unless you got a resident permit, because if you don't, you're not there for school business. Unless, you know, if you're there for school business, you can go on the upper parking area, the staff entrance, if you're there for a purpose. And otherwise, yeah, we're trying to get a grip on that. So the school district has agreed to doing that. So it's just a case of getting the signage worked out and getting it ordered and installed. So it's all in progress.
So, I mean, this is far too much. This is all just a work in progress here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Barmer, I'll right back.
Okay. The next is from Kennedy, similar, and I believe you've replied,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
The next is Brenda Broughton, and I believe Fred's been in correspondence with Ms. Broughton. I just thought it would be important to highlight that council is only authorized going after the grant, and that the scope of the project has yet to be detailed and approved and presented to council. So I think there's lots of opportunities still to form and have opinion on this and where this is going. Mrs. Ordigan, I believe you've responded. Ron, I was just wondering if there was any update from Public Works. And why did I say that? Oh, sorry, wrong email. Mrs. Zordigan received, and I suggested that the observations and suggestions will be considered, and that we need to reply. But Ron, I wasn't sure if there was a recent reply that I missed in the attached section here on page 38.
I feel that this is an ongoing run and gun.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was a lot of back and forth there already.
You know, I think I knew yesterday, I knew this afternoon, I touched my stuff, but I've forgotten now whether we're current or not. I will take this, going so quickly, I'll take this from you.
Okay. The next one is resident Norma Rogers, who makes some recommendations about adequate refuse bins being provided at parking, and similar recommendations were made by Charlie Bradbury. So the parking plan may want to consider, and adding some resident-only parking spots in that lot. Now, is there a plan for that? I guess, Peter, maybe you guys just talked about that. It seems there's some duplication here. So it was providing adequate resident refuse bins, so enough garbage collection receptacles around the parking lots. Is that being considered as part of the parking plan? And second,
we had I think the bins that were bear-proof bin at Sunset got demoed by a tree falling on it. Has that been replaced yet, Nye? Do you know?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
and yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember what we've got at Kelvin Grove, but I think we do have one bear-proof bin there.
Yeah, and council approved a second bin. So that's been ordered and will be installed at Kelvin Grove once it arrives.
And I think the Lions Bay Beach Park is just in the process of still, the parks are still in the process of getting set up. So I think that's a work in progress.
Okay. And the last was an inquiry from Riley Dar about the pothole, and I guess there's some temporary tarmac removed and replaced with gravel. I just wonder if there's an update from Public Works on this.
Yeah, the contractors are planning to pave on Friday, so all 3 sites will be paved.
Okay. And the balance of correspondence was for information. It was correspondence that would be replied to, and I don't see that there's any action required on those.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bormare. A good first time at bat. Thank you again. Councillor Out.
Thank you. I put my hand up because I was earlier trying to talk about parking issues, and specifically around when Charlie Bradbury's email came up. I think we need to spend some more time considering residents' input in this issue. It's a big issue for many people, and just to run through it without considering these suggestions, I think is unfair on residents, and it's not going to get us to the right outcome. So the point I was trying to make, the CEO described that what was happening on Bayview is it wasn't, and the mayor said what seems to all be in hand. It was the opposite to what Charlie Bradbury was suggesting. She was suggesting you left the west side of the street the way it's always been for resident parking, not the other way around. I understand the change around the school parking lots probably alleviate some of those issues, and that's a big positive. I'm pleased to see we are doing something around the Mountain Drive intersection. I don't know what that looks like, but I'd certainly like to see that something that has to be taken care of. People parked at that stop street on one side, and then someone parked.
Councillor Rabbit, this is a bit off the correspondence stream.
This is off the correspondence stream when I was talking earlier, and I just got cut off.
About Mrs. Bradbury's email.
Yes. So my general observation is let's take some time to consider these emails. They have good suggestions in them.
Would you be suggesting that staff is not?
Sorry?
So one of the key, the point you're talking about in terms of resident parking on the west side of the street, we've gained 9 stalls that were previously being parked in by visitors by restricting them to resident only. Those are the 9 straight in perpendicular stalls that only residents will be able to park in during school hours, on school business, and off school hours, resident parking. So there's a gain of 9 stalls on the west side right there. I think that goes to the point that, the request she's making, well, we've just picked up 9 stalls.
As I said, I think that's great. That's a big positive. I would just like us to make sure we take the time to read and consider these parking issues. It's going to be a big deal for us for the next few months.
I
want resident input, and we should consider them carefully.
I agree, Councillor Abbott, and there have been some good ideas and some good suggestions that have come from people, and we've been paying attention. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that we not listen to the residents and their ideas.
Thank you very much. That concludes correspondence, which moves us to item number 14, new business. There is none that I know of. Item 15, public questions and comments. There are people in the gallery. If somebody would like to unmute, or could you comment every 2 minutes? And we've got time for a few folks. Mr. Shore.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to speak in support of Neville's questions today, primarily around the expenditures. There's a couple of things there that he said tonight that met with some friction from the other team members, and it's just disappointing to see that. Years ago, I had the pleasure of serving on a public board chaired by Dr. Don Ricks, who founded Life Labs, among other things. And he said, if you're doing your duty as a director of a company, one of the things you need to do is smoke out any issues that may not be surfacing. And one of the ways to do that is to look into the legal bills. So ever since then, when sitting on public boards, I do that. And as a CFO of companies, the last company I had a annual legal bill of $180,000, not $25,000. I would report in categories on a quarterly basis. So I think Neville's request was absolutely appropriate. And I think it's probably appropriate that residents can see that legal bill on a categorized basis. So we don't need to see all the $100 items. But if there are $1,000 items or $10,000 items on a $25,000 bill, I think we should see what's going on. It's part of transparency. So disappointing to see how the friction that he was given for that. And I just wanted to let everybody know that, that I do support Neville and his request. And I hope not to see that kind of friction again in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shore, for your view. Would another resident like to come forward, please, unmute, and you have the floor. There being none, we'll move on. Thank you very much to the gallery for joining us. We will be leaving the public session, and we'll say goodbye to our gallery because we'll be resuming the closed section. And we will be doing some reporting out when we come back in about half an hour. So to our gallery, thank you very much and good night.
Do we need to go
We are
out?
going back to our other meeting, I take it.
Yeah.
Are we just staying here? Shutting down the
Carla
gallery?
should be able to stay where you are. Carla can watch the gallery go.
Yeah, you can stay here.
Could I have a 2-minute recess, please?
2 minutes it is, but know that you're on the dime because we're out of here at 10.
Okay.
That's my battery running low.